Um, Good morning, everybody. I'd really like to introduce Evan Richards, who's the Integration and Participation Worker from Kooth. And Kooth is a digital mental health and wellbeing company that's providing a welcoming space for digital mental health care, which is available to all. Young people need a safe space and a welcoming space to explore their mental health needs. And for the past 15 years, Kooth have been the UK's leading provider for the NHS on effective online mental health. And I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Fantastic. So I can just see everyone starting to pop in who they are. So that's great. So thank you so much for that. So just a little bit of background about the role that I do in Kooth. So I'm what Kooth calls an integration and participation worker. And essentially what that would be on a normal day is I would be in the community talking about Kooth, how we work. And this would be directly to young people and to professionals and teachers. And once we're integrated into the school, what we would then do, or the organisation, we would then deliver workshops and presentation and training. So I'm going to deliver to you today one of those sessions, and it's our introductory session that was suitable for families and for professionals as well. So if at any point during the session you have any questions, please either feel free to interrupt and just ask the question then and there, or pop it in the chat, and I'll get back around to the questions towards the end. And Rachel, can I just check as well how much time that I have for the session?
Half an hour.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, fantastic. So definitely any questions, we have space for that, so please feel free to ask. So I'm assuming everybody can see that. If you can't, please just shout out and let me know. If not, I'll just carry on as though you can. Fantastic. So this is the question that we always start off our sessions with. So where do you go when you need to talk to someone? And usually what I do if I'm delivering to young people is have this question up on the screen as they're entering the room or they're coming into the webinar, is what we're doing now. And it's a really important question, because I think hopefully for the most of us, when we ask that question, where do you go when you need to talk to someone? We can think of a place, we can think of a person, or sometimes we think of an activity that we do that helps relieve our stress or calm us down or make us feel a little bit more balanced. But unfortunately for everybody, we don't always have those things that come to mind. And also sometimes those people that we do rely on for that aren't always available. Maybe they're just busy doing something else, they're dealing with their own emotional well-being, or for some reason or other, they're just not there for us. And then in that instance, I always like to question young people with, what do you do next? Where do you go after that if the person or the thing that you rely on is no longer available for you? And that's pretty much where Kooth comes into it here. So Kooth, as Rachel has said, is a digital emotional wellbeing service, and we are absolutely anonymous. So we are a website and not an app, despite what this slide looks like. We show this to young people in this format just to highlight that we're accessible on any device that can access the internet. But we've kept it as a website for two reasons, really. One, because if we made it into an app, a part of that anonymity factor would be lost, because we'd get certain data from that young person's phone or their iPad or whatever it is they're using on us on. And the other part of it as well is that some young people need permissions to download apps from their parents or from their carers, and also there'll be an icon on their phone for their friends to see. So they've told us that they'd prefer it to be a website, so that's what we've done. We are so anonymous, in fact, that we don't even take a young person's IP address. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's the identification code on a computer or a phone that lets us be able to pinpoint the precise location of that user. We don't even store any of that information. So the only way we can learn about a young person is if they choose to tell us who they are. So we are a BACP accredited organisation, and we have various professionals on our site and counsellors and other youth workers that would be accredited by different bodies depending on the type of counselling that they offer. This is really important that we stress this, is because we are anonymous. We don't know any information about that young person. So if a young person does come to us in crisis, we have to be able to deal with that in-house. And because of our accreditation and because of the qualifications of the people who work for us, we are absolutely able to do that. That means for young people, they can come to us because they're having consistent arguments with their parents, all the way up to maybe suicidal ideation, and everything in between. And we are perfectly capable of supporting them through whatever journey they need to go through. So I think I've just seen some chats pop up. So let me see if there's Is there anything that I can answer? Nope, they're all introductions. That's fantastic. So yeah, we can support anything, young people through anything that they're dealing with, and we do that in a variety of ways. So the first thing that we're probably most known for is our counselling and online support. So young people can sign up with us, and I'll talk you through how that happens. And it usually takes around 5 to 10 minutes to sign up. And then so long as our counsellors are online, and they're online between midday and 10 p.m. weekdays and 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. weekends, young people can join a queue to speak to a counsellor or an emotional wellbeing practitioner. So just for reference, our emotional wellbeing practitioners would not be counsellors. They'd be people who are youth workers. We've had people who were teachers, judges, other professionals who have joined Kooth and worked for us online as well. So that would be more of a mentoring scheme. But they can jump in a queue and a virtual queue and join a chat with a member of our team, usually within the space of an hour. So if a young person's going to wait to speak to someone for more than an hour, what we would do is we'd send them a message instead. What they're jumping in that queue for is a one-to-one conversation, kind of like a WhatsApp conversation. That's how I always explain it to young people. And they can have one of those once a week for as long as they want to, for 1 hour and they can talk about anything they want to in that again. They can request counselling, like a named counsellor and a therapeutic intervention in that chat if they want to. But if the emotional wellbeing practitioner or the counsellor that picks them up identifies a need for further support, then we'd enter into a 3-chat assessment phase with that young person. And then they'd be assigned a named counsellor, and then we'd begin therapeutic intervention with them. So in Trafford in particular, Kooth is available for ages 11 to 25, but nationwide we are available from 10 to 25. So in Greater Manchester, we do now cover all of Greater Manchester, but the age ranges of where Kooth is available is slightly different depending on what the local authority is commissioned for, but it will be somewhere between the 10 to 25 age range. So if you are interested if you work outside of Trafford, for example, in Salford or Manchester City or Stockport, and you want to find out, if you just go to the Kooth landing page, it will tell you during the sign-up process what the age ranges are there. But we are available for young people in Greater Manchester now. If a young person doesn't want to have that one-to-one chat, the idea of counselling feels a bit intense, they're not quite ready for that, but they still need support, they can just send us a message and we'll get back to them within 24 hours. Now, that might be inviting them into a chat at a time that they feel comfortable. It may be signposting them to other services in their area, or it might be providing them with some additional resources to support their needs on a tailor-made basis, depending on what they can tell us about what they're going through. And those are the 2 main ways that they can speak to a counsellor or an emotional wellbeing practitioner on Kooth. In order to do that, young people just need to go to kooth.com and they'll be taken to our landing page just here. They'll find an overview video of Kooth. They'll also find constant links to crisis information if, for example, they don't want to sign up or they need support immediately. Or if they want to join Kooth, they'll just click that button and be taken to this page. So the only information that we ask young people is the area that they live in. So it may be Manchester, Trafford, and then within there it may be Urmston, for example. And then we'll ask them the year and the month that they're born, just to ensure that they're of the right age range. And then we'll ask them their gender and their ethnicity. Now, these 2 questions are really just for us to be able to identify that young person the way that they want to be identified. It has no bearing on anything other than that we can address them how they want to be addressed. And then we ask them to pick a username and password. Now, it's a really standard sign-up process. You'd notice that we don't have an email address request on here. That means if a young person does forget their username or password, we can't send them a reset password link. So if you are going to signpost any young people to using the site, I'd always recommend to get them to save their username and password, maybe in their phone as a fake contact. Whilst forgetting their sign-up information doesn't sound like a big detriment, if they do have a named counsellor or they are really actively using the site and making great progress, all that will be lost because they've then lost their sign-up information. Another quick important note on the sign-up information as well is because we are an anonymous site, it's really important that young people make sure that their username is anonymous as well. So no nicknames in there, no social media handles or any gamer tags. Because although we as workers won't be able to identify them through that, we do have a community element of the page, which I'll get onto next. And their friends may be using the site, or the people who identify them through their social media names. So it's really important that we discourage them from using that, because if they are talking about something sensitive to them, we don't want them there to be any repercussions for them in their day-to-day life because of that. So that is Kooth in a nutshell. As I've mentioned, it's much more than just counselling. We do have other elements of the page as well. And that includes the Kooth magazine and Kooth forum as well. So we tend to refer to this as our building our Kooth community. And even though it is anonymous, young people are really great at interacting on there. So we have what we call our Kooth magazine, and it covers a range of topics. It's not just about emotional well-being or mental health. It can be about politics, it can be about health generally, hobbies, and young people can also contribute to this as well. So around, I think like my last statistic session in Kooth, I think it was around 80% of the content on the magazine is written by young people up and down the country. Now, because we are have such a huge age range from 10 to 25, the information that goes live on our site, the content that goes live on our site is age appropriate. So if a young person signs up as 10, they won't see the same content that a young person who's 25 is posting. And that's just for obvious safeguarding reasons. But they can contribute, and they can also comment on other people's contributions and then reply to comments. In order to keep young people safe on the anonymous site, what we do is moderate absolutely everything. So if a young person requests to upload content, someone will read through all of that first to make sure it's all safe and then post it if it is. And the same thing with any comments and any replies to comments as well. And all we're doing is checking for three things to make sure that the advice that they're giving each other is really good, safe advice. We don't have any of the issues that you see on other social media with pro-suicide accounts or anything like that. It's all safe because we moderate it. It's not an algorithm, it's a real person who will read over everything. And we're making sure they're not accidentally or purposefully giving away their personal information, so they can't arrange to meet up in a park or anything like that, because we will read through all of them. And then the third thing is we're making sure there's no trolling. So if a young person is exploring something on the site that's personal to them, they will only ever receive positive encouragements and comments through Kooth. Alongside our magazine, we also have our forums, which are very, very similar, except they're short, bite-sized bits of information. And we have two types of forums, a live one and a static one. So the static one is a discussion board that I refer to as similar to Twitter, in that someone will post a comment and other people will comment on those comments, or they'll ask a question and they'll comment on those. And then we have live forums, and they go live between 7 and 9 p.m. One day a week, and that will either be on a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Friday. We cycle those days to make sure that young people who have other commitments like youth groups, homework clubs can still come to at least some of the live sessions. They can also just check up on the sessions after the live period is gone as well, because they'll just live on the forum as a static one. We do post what's going to be spoken about in the live forum once a month, and that will be in the form of one of our magazine articles. So at the beginning of every month, we'll have a list of what's upcoming, and there'll be an agenda on each one. So if a young person wants to talk about, let's say, for example, our next topic is about ADHD, they can decide to jump in on that and jump in at a specific time if there's a particular topic they'd like to talk about within ADHD. And then we have Kooth activities. So these are all inclusive activities, and I really love to signpost or send users to these as well because of that. They're all activities that can be done away from a screen. So young people just need to log in, have a look at the activity, take a few notes of the step-by-step guides, and try it somewhere else. These activities help support building healthy habits, building coping mechanisms, dealing with relationships, and a whole wide range of other things. And these can all be done in their own time. And it really helps as well to reduce screen time. So not everything that Kooth offers to support mental health and emotional well-being needs to come hand in hand with increased screen time, which I know all of us are probably struggling with right now. So they're really great to signpost our young people too. So that's the offer of Kooth in a nutshell in regards to how young people can access the site. But one thing that's really important for us is our safeguarding. So we know that being anonymous, I don't expect you to read all of this either, by the way, this is just there in case you want to. We know that being an anonymous site can raise a few concerns for parents, carers and professionals. But what this slide is really just to reiterate is that it is a core value of ours, and that in every stage of how Kooth works as a platform, we have safeguarding procedures built into every level. So our very first safeguarding procedure is our moderation. So I've mentioned the Kooth magazine and the Kooth forum, and they're all moderated. We also have something called Kooth journals and Kooth goals. Now, these are ways for young people to track their own mood and also to track their goals as well. We moderate those too. So for an example, if a new user came onto Kooth, didn't want to interact with us through a chat, but they wanted to set a goal to lose 5 pounds. we have to moderate that before it goes live on their site. So we'll check it over, and if we see that, we will not allow that to go live. What we would do is we'd send that young person a message and say, hey, we've just saw your goal, we'd love to have a chat with you about it. When do you have some time to have a chat? If they don't, we'll then continue that conversation in the message inbox rather than that one-to-one. And we'd find out how we can set some smarter, healthier goals. We don't know that young person. Losing £5 may not be suitable for that young person's health. We don't know if they've got an eating disorder or anything like that. So we wouldn't allow that to go ahead. What we would do though is get in touch with that young person, look at smarter ways to set goals. Maybe I want to learn how to have a balanced diet. I want to begin to exercise 3 times a week. Something that's more that's a little bit of a safer set of goals and a bit more targeted as well. And that's kind of how we moderate, and we do that at every single juncture as well. So it means we get to pick up on a lot of issues with young people before they even have the confidence to come to us to address them as well. Another thing we do is if we have any kind of one-to-one conversation with young people, excuse me, we have a questionnaire in the beginning, which we call our contracting. And what we do there is we set kind of tone with young people before we have a conversation, and that's so that we know what so they know what to expect of us and what we expect of them. And also they know that if they were to tell us anything about themselves and there was to be a disclosure, they are completely aware of what would happen after that. If they do decide to tell us anything, they're going into it knowing fully what will happen as a repercussion, rather than them telling us something and then them being blindsided by what we have to do to look after them towards the end of that disclosure. And then we also, I always refer to it as death by feedback form with young people. So at every opportunity, we ask them their feedback at the end of every page, at the end of every interaction. And it's really just for us to make sure that we're giving them the service that they want. So if at the end of a session with a one-to-one session with a counsellor, a young person had this and they felt that they weren't being heard, that their counsellor wasn't right for them, what we would then do is get in touch with them and try and find an alternative counsellor for them to engage with. Across the UK, I think we have over 200 counsellors and emotional wellbeing practitioners, and they can be based anywhere in the UK, and they have a wide range of different expertise. So if that one counsellor that young person's working with isn't right for them, we have a whole plethora of other counsellors that can support them as well, and they can request that too rather than just waiting for the feedback form. So this as well is just the nutshell of what I've already gone over really. We do have some face-to-face services in different areas, but within Greater Manchester, everything is digital, everything is text-based. We'll never ask a young person to speak to us on the phone. This is really good, for example, for young people who share rooms and they still need that support and can't find time away to have that conversation. And as I've said before, all of our counsellors are trained and working with young people, and we all are absolutely 100% anonymous unless that young person decides to tell us something about themselves. As I've mentioned already, kind of briefly in the beginning of what my role is, we do offer training to professionals, and so we come into organisations and schools and deliver training to staff. It's something similar to what we've done here in regards to the introduction session, except it goes into a lot more detail about safeguarding and how we look after young people on our end. So we can get those booked in with teams as well in organisations, and we're more than happy to do that. If you want something a little bit more beyond the Kooth introduction, we do have a range of other sessions, such as looking after young people's well-being. We have a session that's direct delivery to professionals and parents, and also a direct delivery to young people as well. Managing stress and anxiety, building emotional resilience, we have staying safe online, anger. I could really read you a whole list here, but I won't. So if there is anything that you're interested in getting, or you'd like to learn a little bit more about Kooth in Trafford, please feel free to just send me an email there at trafford@kooth.com, and we can have a little bit of a bigger discussion about how Kooth can support, or about how we can get some training booked in or some workshops booked in for your organisation or your young people as well. So I can stop sharing now and see if there are any questions from anyone or any comments. If anybody would like to ask any questions verbally, please feel free to do that. That would be a nice break for me.
Yeah, I had a question, Suzanne. I just wondered if it's anonymous, and obviously when they create a username and their password, they probably put some general information in about their age. How do you know that they are the age that they say they are and that they're part of Trafford? In a nutshell,
we don't. We don't. Our counsellors and emotional wellbeing practitioners, I don't envy them because they have consistent, very annoying training to keep up with everything. They are really good at spotting if a young person is not actually a young person.
Yeah.
What we would do then, if say, for example, we thought that young person was over the age of 25, we would have an intervention with them, find out what support they needed, and then try and signpost them to an appropriate service, rather than just saying, you can't use us, and cut them off. Because if they're coming to us, there's probably a reason why. And then we are like a great bank of information nationwide, so we do try to signpost them to where they need to go in that instance.
Yeah, and I suppose it's less irrelevant because it is people getting help. But if you're saying it's different ages for different local authorities, and you've got a model, it must be a funding model for Trafford. Again, how do you know residents are? Or
we don't. Yes,
they don't. Again, it's trust.
Yeah. Part of my role is to try and inform local authorities, local organisations, and schools about how to sign young people up so they go under the right authority. But really, we can't tell that. But young people tend to be pretty good at figuring out what area they're in. I mean, somebody probably might say, oh, well, it's available for 25 in Trafford, but not in Manchester, so let me just sign up as Trafford. I mean, there's not much we can do about it. What we're more concerned
But they're getting the help anyway.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what we're most concerned about.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm conscious we've just had a notice that we're going to close the room in a minute. If it's okay, I know there was another couple of questions that were posted in chat. What I'll do is I'll take these and give these to Emma for the Q&A session that's later. Evan, can I just say thank you for an absolutely fantastic session. I didn't really know about Kooth, and it's amazing.
If you do have any questions, I won't be in the Q&A later. Please feel free just to email them to me. I'm happy to have that back and forth as well.
Okay.
Trafford@kooth.com.
Yeah, and I think echoing that, it's about, isn't it, about parents knowing as well, and other organisations to signpost you to you.
But what I'm trying to arrange is drop-in sessions for parents across Trafford. So if you are interested in helping organise those, we can do that as well.
Great.
Thank you so much, Evan.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.